What's up, everybody? Hey. Welcome to the latest live episode of Sass in the Beard here on our Facebook page. We are live. We are also sharing and recording our own weekly podcast. You can catch that out on Anchor and Spotify at the moment. We are working to get that on iTunes podcasts as well. For those of you who are watching us tonight, we are so excited that you have decided to join us this week. We've got a lot of fun stuff to talk about, right, Kristen?
Yes, a lot of fun stuff. Lots of casino updates. Yes. We haven't actually talked about the casino in a while, so that is very exciting to get back into that. Although I don't think we're going to see a casino before the end of this year.
Yeah, no, we're not holding our breath over here in Polk County, at least not at Sass in the Beard, for a casino anytime soon. However, we've got some news about it, and I think maybe that would be something good for us to start with this week, Kristen, is the folks at Fair Play, Arkansas. And if you notice the title of our episode this week, Antifun, we hear a lot of complaints about Antifa, and so we just kind of flipped the script and we changed it to Antifun.
We did, because I'm pretty sure that taking Polk County off of Amendment 100 is some kind of socialism.
Yeah, I think that, you mentioned earlier about just using that word regularly, sure. Just because Inigo Montoya, yeah. I think that word does not mean what you think it means.
Oh, it means everything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a very multi-purpose word.
Oh, yeah, you just throw it in for anything you don't like.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the F word. It's just a very good modifier.
It's not the 4-letter word we were looking for, but it's... So, Kristen, kind of give us an update of what's going on with Fair Play, with the folks there, and what this amendment... I've had a lot of people ask me questions about their collecting signatures, what's going on with that?
Yeah, so they filed paperwork with the Arkansas Ethics Commission to begin the process again to collect signatures to try to remove Polk County from Amendment 100, which is the casino amendment that was passed in 2018. And this is going to be a really interesting thing to see play out because this cannot go to a vote until November 2022. But, over this whole time period, there's going to be all these legal things happening. And so they are thinking this is going to be retroactive to 2018. But if shovels go in the ground and there's a casino open, I'm not sure how that's going to work out. So it's going to be interesting. They are circulating the petition. It looks like they had a financial report that was due last week, and they had about $5,000 that came from one donor, from a local realtor who supported that, and they, are going to get out there and do it. They have never really released how many signatures they got last time, and so that kind of makes me think they probably weren't very close. Which a lot of people struggled with signature collection last time because of COVID, but they're planning to get out there and do it. They said all volunteer, which is going to be, bless them, just bless their hearts.
Yeah, they're not going to do any paid, man. And I know that we've kind of recently changed the rules in our state with like paid folks collecting signatures, so it's going to be interesting to see, how much work they're going to be able to do with just the volunteers. I know, working a campaign for political office is a little bit different than running an amendment campaign. It's more extensive and wider, it has a wider berth because this would be a statewide thing.
Yes, this would have to pass statewide in order to remove the amendment. And and the thing is it's not just like once you get to the signatures and you get it to the ballot, like you're not done then. Right. It's also going to be this. I'm supposed to be like switching us back and forth, and I forget. I don't know how to be in charge of these. I can't be in charge of these things. I need
we need a producer.
We need our help.
Yeah,
we need our help.
We need the help
because it's all really good. So, anyways, I think we're back to it now, though. Okay, yes. So Yeah, so they, if you get the signatures and stuff and you get it on the ballot, there's still a whole campaign
Right.
to run to get people to vote the way you want them to. And it's going to be really challenging in 2022 because there are going to be a lot of issues on the ballot.
Yeah.
And so, voters get, we call it voter fatigue. You go so far down the ballot and you just start checking them or just quit answering because people just get tired of it. So it will be very challenging, but, they might get it on the ballot.
Yeah, and, you wonder how far, are we just going to take this? And apparently the opposition to the casino is going to just continue to take this further and further. And not to say that they don't have the right, like, this is the country and state we live in. We want to we have the rules so that if people are in opposition to something, they can address it. But also, at what level is there any success with their endeavor? How far do they actually believe that they can take it? Do they actually believe that with less than, these things cost millions of dollars to fund these campaigns, and maybe they have the money to do it. But if they don't, if it's just on a volunteer basis and they just have the same 200 people or however many people that they've been using for this process locally, that's not going to get it done statewide.
Yeah, the last time that volunteers were able to get an amendment on the ballot through a volunteer process was, I don't know if you remember when they did, this has been quite a while back, probably 2006, maybe 2004, where they did the adoption amendment around unmarried couples. It was kind of targeting gay marriage before gay marriage was legal. That couples who were not married were not able to adopt through this, and that was led by a group in the state who has some experience with this, and they were able to organize around it. And that's kind of the last time it's been done. So it's been a while.
For those of you watching on Facebook Live, please comment your questions, comments, concerns, or rebuttals to anything that we say. We are definitely not perfect, but we try to be at least mildly accurate with our information. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves in is doing our dead level best to give you guys the information as it comes and to be as accurate as possible. So now we kind of move from fair play because that's in the works, and then we go to the casino appeal, which is a completely different
situation. So we also have had, and we know this has been a long ongoing process with the legal issue around the casino. And so if you remember, there was a case that was sent back to circuit court. Like, there was a decision made, and then they appealed it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sent it back to the circuit court. And the reason they sent it back was not because of the actual issue, but to say that Cherokee Nation Business should have been an intervener in the case. They had a legitimate interest in the case. So when they sent it back, Cherokee got to say their side of it. But then Judge Fox issued the same ruling. And that was that the rule from the Arkansas Racing Commission, which said that the letter of support had to come from the current officials in office, that was said to be, the rule was said to be invalid. That's what the circuit court said. So this is an appeal of that. And so basically that's what this will come down to is, will the state Supreme Court either uphold that this rule that the Racing Commission made was allowed, which the state's argument on appeal was that they did have the right to make that rule. Now, typically,
because the state gave them the right to make that rule.
Actually, because the authors of the ballot initiative gave them that right.
The scope gave them the scope.
Yes, so that they could implement rules in the scope of doing that. We have a good question there. I'll get back to
it. Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah.
And so that's kind of what's at question is at stake here is, were they allowed to add this rule that says current office holder? And if they were, then that would mean that Gulf Side's letters of support were invalid. If they say no, that rule's not valid, and they uphold the circuit court decision, then that would say that the letter that the letter Gulfside has is valid, and they could continue to retain the license. Right. So I think something that's interesting here is just to note is that the state, the Arkansas Racing Commission, could have chosen to not appeal the decision by the circuit court on the validity of that rule. But they argue that the rule is valid, and I think that's important to know because that's not, the state doesn't have the same kind of financial interest in it that the casino operators have.
Yeah.
Now there is a financial interest to the state. Don't get me wrong. There's tax money,
billions of dollars.
But if they were only looking out for their financial interests, the easier thing would have been to not appeal. And to just go ahead and say, nope, we support Gulfside having it. We're not going to appeal. So, it's an interesting decision. I think that we're going to see this be kind of the decision that decides whether or not people are able to, whether or not they start a temporary casino site.
Gotcha.
We've seen the city planning commission starting to consider Gulfside's proposals for a temporary casino site. They had denied the proposal previously, the request, but we see that happening obviously in preparation for a decision that's going to allow them to break ground and get started.
Right, because they want to get started collecting money.
Right.
So Josh, in talking about the fair play discussion that we were having earlier, Josh on Facebook says, it sucks when a few people have the time and money to shut something down that most people support. Not everybody has the time and energy to be full-time political activists. I agree, Josh. I mean, that's one of the things that really kind of got us started with this was that we did have some extra time to be able to communicate to everyone to say, hey, here's what's going on, because there wasn't an avenue for that, and so I agree. And there are these folks who are opposed to this thing that a lot of people do support, but they have the time and money to spend to it. Yeah.
And then Chris Hausnick asked,
who is our local college history professor?
No, political science
professor. Sometimes they crossover.
History is a part of that.
Sorry, Chris. I misspoke. And his question is, can you remember any other statewide ballot amendment on any topic that was focused on just one location or county?
I can't recall any off the top of my head. Now, there's been, we have like 100 years of ballot initiative history in Arkansas, but I can't think of anything that was like that. Now, there may have been way back, but not in recent time.
Well, and the question presupposes that I cared enough to remember those types of things, on a long-term basis, Like, lately, obviously, things have been a lot more, but I bet Chris knows. Chris, do you remember any other statewide ballot amendment that was focused on one location or county? And we'll answer that as you post if you do. So I think this would be a time normally when we do our show that we might have a break where there was advertisements. In the past, we did not have any real control over who might place an advertisement here in this section. But we do want to say to you that you, as you are watching this, can subscribe to become a patron through Patreon with Sass and the Beard, which we will post those links in the video in the comment section. You can also send us money via Cash App, which is $. Is it Sass Beard?
Beard Sass.
Beard Sass.
And
looks
Patreon.
Like Beard's ass. Yeah, but it's Beard Sass.
And Patreon is patreon.com/beardsass.
Yes, for
not
those of you.
Beard Sass.
For those of you listening to the podcast. Yeah, Beard Sass. You can follow us on Facebook and we also have a website.
We do have a website, beardsass.com, and there's lots of good stuff on there. There's a discussion portal where you can put your feedback on things that are happening in the community. We have questions posted on there. We have our past videos, lots of good content to check out. and a schedule of when city council and different meetings are coming up, and a link to all those different pages that have information. So it's a good. I've spent a lot of time working on it.
Yes, Chris, in your comment there, we bringing you news with glorious purpose. We are the Loki of local Russellville politics. For all of my nerd friends who are watching. And he says he cannot remember the last 12 years if there was a specific area. That's very unprecedented with this.
Definitely not in the last 12 years,
yeah.
for sure. Now, previous to that, I haven't looked back in a while, but I'm the nerd that does know quite a bit
Chris
of those ballot initiatives.
Yeah. Well, it's because you
my job.
have fought to work for such good change in our state. Yeah, good job.
Thanks. I'm feeling the love right now.
Yeah,
This is.
Yeah.
We should do more of this.
New spot, new show, new. All of the chains are off. We're free.
Nathan's gonna drop the F-bomb.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm definitely not. I'm not saying that I care that people drop it. It's just like one of my hard and fast rules.
You're a very good person.
When I'm on camera. Now, when I'm off camera, if I stub my toe, I'm probably going to say it. Just for any of you out there getting the idea that I'm...
He's a very nice person. I'm a very nice person too, but I'll say it.
You are.
I'll just put it in my sentences like a, adjective, adverb. It fills a lot of roles. But we had the city council meeting. This is when we got off track.
It's a great segue.
It is. We did have this. Well, look, we had the city council meeting. It was a little bit of a mess too.
There could have been some F words said in that.
Oh, there were some thinking it. But they may not have said it out loud, but it was definitely a vibe.
And definitely not fun. That was not the F word.
No, not the F word. Mm-hmm. They were. But it was so funny. It was just so funny. Okay.
Wait. Okay. Before we get into the city council, my wife, who I love, commented and said, "That's a lot of yes, ma'am." And my daughter, when she was learning to talk, if you would say to her, "Say yes, ma'am," she said, "Bullshit." So we found ourselves saying, "That's a lot of yes, ma'am."
That's so funny.
Yes. So the city council meeting was a lot of yes, ma'am.
It was a lot of yes, ma'am. That's what we're calling it. Yes. It was okay. So a little bit of backstory on this is that so the rental ordinance, we've been covering that quite a bit. It's not. I mean, if you've watched anything with us the last few weeks,
anything on our Facebook page or past episodes, we've covered it extensively.
Yeah, and so to most of the time at a city council meeting, they don't want to read the entire issue or ordinance or whatever they're working on. So they will suspend the rules and read it by title only with a short explanation. But to suspend the rules, you have to have a 2/3 majority vote to pass that. If you don't suspend the rules and you just want to read the entire thing, then you only have to have a simple majority.
Right. And usually, I say usually, because not always, the council members themselves have already read the full document of the ordinance. And some of these ordinances can be really long documents. And so to require the city attorney to sit and read the full document in the public meeting, especially when the full documents are posted online for people to peruse through, is kind of redundant. I don't oppose them suspending the rules to read it by title only. Unless sometimes maybe there's a controversial issue. But for the most part, they should have already read it. And they should know it. And the people have access to it. But I know you feel a little different about that.
Well, no, I mean, I can go either way. It doesn't necessarily bother me to have it read by title only or read in full. The issue I have a problem with suspending the rules is when they decide to only read it once and they don't do 3 readings.
I'm in full agreement with the 3 readings.
But at this meeting, so they did this, and typically, I mean, it's typically just a formality. Like nobody really wants to hear the whole thing read. But they didn't do that, and so they passed it that way. And so the city attorney had to read the entire 6-page document. It's very dry legalese, And I mean, he sounded like the most tired auctioneer. Like he was like just deep breath. I mean, I felt so bad for him, and he had to do that for so long. But he did it. I mean, he was a trooper. He did a great job. He was a total professional about it. But yeah, hopefully next month maybe they'll just let it
right.
go.
Maybe someone will decide. Well, so my question is, when they voted, how'd it go?
So for suspending the rules, they didn't suspend the rules. They didn't
so
have enough votes.
Well, they can't vote vote officially until the third.
Yeah, so it's just a reading the first time.
Public comment? I know they don't normally do public comment until the last reading as well, but
nope.
Okay.
Yep, they just read it and then went on, and so next month, the city attorney may have to read the entire thing again, which was highly.
It's just kind of like a dick move too, like for. When we've already done this, everybody knows we've been talking about this thing for 6 months now, or however long, and so it's been in the process. And for 4 or 5 of the council members, would have to be.
There's 8, so
right. So there 5 for at least 3 or more of the council members to be like, yeah. We're just like, we want to sit and make you read through this.
Yeah, because it's not a vote that you support it. It's just a vote about whether you read the whole thing or you just read the title. Mm-hmm. But, okay. If y'all want to listen to a bedtime story with Trey, then that's totally fine. They also had, there was something else I was going to tell you about the city council, and now I just forgot it. It popped in my head for a minute. Oh, well, keep moving. I'll think of it in a minute.
Well, and so we can go on with what we were wanting to talk about. Oh, no,
I remembered. Okay. Yes. Okay. So after the city council meeting, I got a text from a council member who had received photos and like a doctor's note from a constituent about health issues they were having from the living conditions in their apartment. Mm-hmm. And, it had a big impact on that council member. And I wanted to highlight that because, if you're one of the folks that's in that living in that situation, or someone who is, letting your council member know your personal experience, your stories, your pictures, that stuff will do more than anything we could do here, to change their minds.
Yeah, lobbyists or like what we do to like shit talk people on Facebook, like none of that works. Like it really only incenses, like our job here is to give you information and encourage you to communicate. Because that's what works to change their minds. 100% agree.
And the people that have taken the initiative and they've done that have had a real impact. Right. And so, it's really important to not just, let that slide by and think that your voice doesn't matter in this.
To be fair, it's like I really feel like it's the only reason it's lasted this long because opposition was so strong early on. Like, not early on, but once it became like this thing. But the reason that it's gotten so far in progressing is because people have said, hey, this is what
because people have said they care about it, and they really, if nobody even knew this was happening, it would have never gotten another chance at a reading. That's totally been because people have cared about it and have reached out and taken action. And that's what we want to do is help people have the information to be able to do that. Yeah. You don't have to agree with us. You could call them and tell them you think that voting it down is the best idea ever. Yeah. We support you calling and telling them what you think, even if it's not what we agree with.
Yeah, the thing that frustrates me more than just about anything is to get a phone call from something that you and I have been talking about for months, and we've been prepping the information, and they call me after something fails in the city that they supported or would have supported had they known about it. And it's just like, listen, we've been talking, you know who I am, I would do this every week, and it's not like you have to sit and watch the whole video. We share things that go on, we highlight, we put little blips and blurbs of words on social media. It's not if you've missed
it. It's really technical. It's the blips and blurbs of words.
If you've missed it, then it's because you weren't paying attention. And it just, if you care about something, don't wait till it's over to care, That's what bothers me. That's a lot of our problems in our area, I feel like, are people waiting too long to care. And then something happens that they would have either been happy or mad about, and they're like, oh gosh, we didn't get a chance. Well, yeah, you did get a chance. You just weren't aware of it.
But to be fair, it's hard to know what's going on. It's not always easy to keep up with everything that's happening. That's part of why we did this, was to try to make it easier, and to help people know, that your local elected officials have a big impact on your daily life. And whether you realize it or not, and as people who live here, you have a lot of influence over that. Right. So anywho, that was a city council meeting. It was exciting. There was some drama. There was some little exchanges over a real kind of mundane insurance issue, but they got a little testy. I love watching a city council meeting. It's like the lamest Real Housewives episode you've ever seen.
Like if Big Brother were a snooze fest, where my family's into Big Brother right now. That's what we do. It's like my wife's football season, and so. It was like a Big Brother, which I know a lot of people think Big Brother is lame anyway, but imagine if it were not exciting, where people were jumping around doing stuff. They were just sitting there talking and arguing back and forth. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know if you check the Pope County mugshots every day.
I don't.
I do. I check them every morning when I am kind of waking up and having my coffee to see what's been going on. Uh-huh. And there was a familiar face on there. That
wasn't me.
He's lying. It
was not me.
I tried to get him bailed out first. He's so wild.
You're gonna believe that.
No, Nathan would never do. Nathan's so well behaved.
Whoa.
He would never. He's who I would call. I'm the one you're worried about.
Yeah. Call me if you need to get bailed out.
That's just a general offer he's making to the community,
not
just
everyone.
So you know.
No.
Yeah.
No. So who did you see? I mean, I don't know if you're wanting to name.
No, of course I am. Okay. That's why I brought it up. Tyler Bearfield.
Which
was a big. If you're not local to here, or if you're new to the area, and this was a very big murder trial a few years ago, and the Pope County mugshot thing just said, "I'm here for a trial." Yes. So what the heck?
Yeah, like we already had a trial for this, and he was.
He was convicted.
Found guilty, and sentenced to life in prison. Right? Mm-hmm. It was for life in prison. But there are rules to protect convicted criminals if they feel like they were convicted wrongly, and you can petition for relief. Rule 37. In the state law, and that's what he did. He petitioned because he felt like there was some evidence that was not presented correctly. He felt like his attorney at the time was ineffective, and there were some other kind of smaller things, but those were seemingly the two basic, major issues. The ballistics issue was it was somewhat comical because the expert that the defense or his current legal team brought in said that the state crime lab evidence for ballistics is voodoo science, which I have no expertise in that, so I can't. It's just funny that he called it voodoo science.
But he's a ballistics expert,
right?
He
Apparently he is an expert in ballistics, and so therefore, does that mean he's a voodoo scientist? Can we call him that?
I mean, that sounds like a pretty.
Yeah. How do you get that job?
How do you get the nameplate for that on your desk? That's. Yeah.
So there are a lot of people that were arguing about this on social media because it was a pretty gruesome situation. And so he was convicted guilty of shooting two men that were on his family's business property, and then he was convicted of crushing them with some equipment to hide the bodies.
Yeah.
Or at least the evidence of what had happened to them. And now to come back and kind of say, well, the evidence was all kind of messed up,
Yeah.
From the the bodies were crushed. I mean,
the whole thing just seemed wild. Like when I was reading it, that like apparently at some point there was a mention of like of another person there, and like the defense attorney said like that he didn't know the opening statements would be considered like factual evidence or something. I don't know. I'm like, how did you miss that part of law school? That seems very basic, but apparently it was a confusing process.
Well, and the judge asked several times for them to say, like, what is your problem? And they didn't want to answer because they didn't want to present all their evidence. This was not a trial. Like, this was just a judgment by the judge to say whether or not his petition was valid. And so they did have to present evidence to prove validity. And so there was some... They were the ballistics expert and crime lab expert apparently was saying that there could be evidence that their deaths were not connected to Mr. Bearfield at all, which I thought was very far, that they were killed by someone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how that
completely
works.
different way, by a handgun and being beat up.
It's that voodoo science.
Instead of being shot by an AR-15 and crushed with a...
So if the judge were to grant their petition for relief, that wouldn't mean that he's getting, just that he's not guilty and being released. It would mean that he would have access to another trial.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And he's not in any hurry to make this decision. He's waiting for some briefs and things to be sent to him, and he set a date for middle of August for that to happen, and then so he'll have to take time to review those, and so I would assume that probably in the fall.
I figure by the beginning of September, probably within a week or two after he gets his briefs.
Yeah.
And that's pretty typical for a local level case. And this is a special appointed judge. It's not a local judge.
Right.
Typically in a situation like this, they wouldn't put a local judge over it just because there's too easy to be a conflict. There's too many local connections and stuff. And so this judge actually was involved with the Alford plea that the West Memphis 3 put in, which was kind of a unique legal move to be released, but not really say that they're innocent. Right. Exactly. Because it really was just about letting the state out of any liability.
Guilty, but not. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it just keeps the state from being liable. So that judge is going to be involved with this. So I think it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. It was a big case here with a lot of public interest and
statewide, national media attention.
I think people will be just as interested if there's another trial.
Yeah.
To hear what goes on there.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, it's very dramatic. Lots of people and families were involved. That's the thing that you don't see. We post stuff on Facebook, or people share things on Facebook, and they give this opinion, and the humanity is taken out of it. And I really try to focus on the humanity of things, because these are people. Your elected officials are people. Your people that commit crimes are people. We're all people, and we deserve to be treated humanely. And even if we've committed terrible crimes, those young men that were allegedly stealing deserved humanity and to be humanely treated just as much as Mr. Bearfield does. So, and their families, both of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've been listening. I don't like podcasts, but I started listening to some podcasts
because of our podcast.
Because Nathan finally has achieved his dream of having a podcast. He's so excited.
I wanted a podcast for 10 years.
I'm so not a podcast person, but I started listening to some, and one of the few I started was called "This Is Actually Happening," and it's about people who lived through really traumatic or crazy experiences. One woman was assaulted by a customer at a bank and had her neck cut open and just was really crazy, and but they talk about the experience when it's happening, and I thought it was so interesting because it's you see that stuff on TV, and it is easy to lose humanity
Right.
in that and not think about like the families, all the people that get impacted by these things. There and we have more than one of those kind of cases coming up right now.
Right.
And we haven't talked about some of them lately, but we will come back and talk about some of this.
Yes, we've been asked several times about the situation in Yale County with the quote unquote hunting accident. There, and
lost a very bright young man.
Yes, someone who was very well known in that community, and this was more statewide, but the young man who was shot by the police officer, there was a lot of national attention, and I saw where like Al Sharpton came down to visit the family because
he gave the eulogy.
To say like this is not just a black-white issue, like it's all of us. Those are the kind of things I think that like I'm ready for our like not just like locally or statewide, but nation as a whole. Like these are the way that we grow to know each other and to be better at these kind of things.
Yeah, totally.
And another way that you can do that is by getting your COVID-19 vaccine.
Gosh, I know. We're kind of ending this on a downer.
I know.
It is very important. We have a very low vaccination rate in Arkansas, and numbers are starting to spike again. And we saw this week where a very healthy, active 21-year-old or 20-year-old football player from Arkansas Tech has been hospitalized and put on a ventilator because of COVID. And just the thing that you fear is somebody so young and healthy could be affected so extremely by something like this. And so it's definitely. I mean, like I'm not a scientist at all. I'm just a political hack, but I trust scientists, and they have said repeatedly that we should get vaccinated to beat this thing. We had Dr. Vicki Henderson on a few months ago when the vaccine first started, talking about how important it was to get this done. And so we're just at this point that, you just really can't risk it. Maybe you can. Maybe people have lots of good reasons that they do.
Very much.
That's your personal choice, I guess. But it's starting to have a real impact on our community. We're about to go back to school and have kids back in school. It's crazy.
And I personally, I know personally 10 people who are no longer alive because of COVID, and I don't want anybody to have to suffer that. And some of them were healthy and some of them were not. But if it wasn't for COVID, they would still be alive. And so that's the point, is saying whether you're healthy or not, getting the vaccine can save your life if you contract COVID, as we are seeing many, if not most of the cases that are hospitalizations right now are unvaccinated people. In Arkansas, we are seeing. It may be different in other places, people argue with us about these things, and that's fine. It's your right to have an opinion and to never get the vaccine. It is your right to not do that. So please don't take this as us saying that, we're not communists, we're not socialists. Do it or don't, it's your decision. But we are imploring you to please do it so that you can be safer. And that's pretty much the only pitch I'm going to make for that anymore, because I'm getting to a place where I'm like, if that's the way you want to live, do that. I've already got the vaccine, but my children can't get the vaccine because they're too young. But they could get COVID from someone, and if they don't have the vaccine, it could be worse for them. So
I just am really ready to resuscitate my social life, and I can't do that if everybody has COVID.
Yeah.
And that's not a good enough reason to get vaccinated, but if y'all could just get with it, that'd be great.
So get the vaccine so that Kristen can go out and have fun.
I'm so bored. I've been so bored.
If you want to keep her from doing this show more often, or from digging deep into the things going on, then you should get your vaccine, and then she'll go out and do
I'll be too busy.
Life.
Yeah. I saw a meme the other day that said if you want to increase vaccine rates, you should send out a letter from President Biden saying, President Biden thanks you for donating your vaccine to like an underprivileged community or something like that, and and
or a mom
thank you
who
for
visited Planned Parenthood.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and so they see him just go through the roof. I don't know if that's true, but I thought it was kind of funny. Yeah. So, anyways, well, it has been fun talking with you about our local politics
every week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. right here on Facebook. You can catch us on Spotify with our podcast and hopefully iTunes soon, anchor.com as well. We will be here next week, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Patreon, Cash App. We'll post all of those links for you in the comments. Thank you guys so much. Share this video with your friends, and we'll see you next week.
Oh no, I can't stop it. Oh, I think you have to stop
it.